I don't use Arch Linux, by the way. You know why I don't use Arch Linux? Because I don't want to have to build my OS from the ground up. I'm a red-blooded American. I like my OSs pre-configured. I like sports ball, pizza, NASCAR. This guy seems pretty cool. I don't know about him, but most importantly, I just want my OSs pre-configured. But this is an IT channel, so let's just roll the intro and jump into it. So what is Arch Linux? The way I look at it, Arch is a DIY operating system. Unlike Ubuntu, for example, Arch doesn't come with any preloaded software. It gives you just enough to get started and then you install everything else. You're picking your desktop environment, your display manager, your networking tools. When I mean you install everything, that's just it. You install everything. A lot of Linux enthusiasts love this about Arch because it gives you full control to install and do whatever you want to your system. So let's get started by going to the official Arch Linux website. There's a ton of documentation in case you get confused, and if you're also looking for updates and news about Arch, you'll be able to find it here as well. Downloading Arch is simple. All we have to do is go to the download page and choose one of the mirror links that matches our region. In this case, my region is the US, so we're gonna go ahead and pick that one. Arch is pretty lightweight, but here are some recommended VM settings to make sure your machine runs smoothly. All we need is 4 gigs of RAM, 2 CPU cores, and finally, about 40 gigs of hard drive space. Now that we have our VM created, let's go ahead and get started with the install. We'll select the first option right here, and we'll let Arch do that initial boot up for us. This is the part right here that people get intimidated by Arch, because right here is at the point where you're expected to start building your system from scratch. Not everyone may know where to begin, but I'm here to help you out with that. We're going to use the command arch install, and this gives us a guided step-by-step process to make sure everything runs smooth and we have all our correct settings. First, it's going to ask us to select our language. In our case, it's going to be English. We can go ahead and just skip locales. Next, we need to pick a mirror. A mirror is basically the server that Arch is reaching out to, so we can download all those packages during the install process. So go ahead and select the region that's closest to you. After that, we'll choose our disk configuration. We'll pick use a best effort default partition layout. Then we're gonna select our 40 gig disk. Next, it's gonna ask for the file system. Here we'll choose ext4, which is stable and one of the most common defaults for most Linux systems. For our bootloader, we'll just keep it default with grub, and we'll leave our kernel as Linux. Hostname, you can change it to whatever you want. I'll just keep it as Arch Linux for now. Now we're here in authentication, and this is where we set up our users and our passwords. First, we need to go ahead and set up our root password. Then we need to create our user account that will let us log in. Gonna ask if we want to give this account sudo rights, and we'll just go ahead and select yes. For network configuration, we'll just go with the default network manager. And finally, we can just leave everything else as default. we'll select install and let Arch do its thing. Now that the install is done, we need to go ahead and set up our desktop environment and our display manager so that we can have a GUI. For this, we'll go ahead and select GNOME. It's easy to use and real user friendly. From here, we'll select the chroot option. Once at the terminal, we'll type in the command pacman-s gnome. And with this command, it's going to install all the packages that GNOME needs to run correctly. We'll go ahead and just select all the default options and press Y, and now our installation is underway. So we'll go ahead and pick things back up once our install is done. Now that our install is done, we're gonna type exit, and then we're going to do a complete shutdown of our system and pick everything back up. Now that we're back on our boot menu, we're gonna select boot from existing OS, and then we'll go ahead and use our login credentials. Now, there's two more things we need to do before our system is up and running properly. First, we need to enable GNOME, and then next, we need to make sure that GNOME boots up every time we boot up our machine. It's a really easy process, takes two commands. The first command is sudo systemctl enable gdm.service. This enables GNOME for us. And the last command is sudo systemctl start gdm.service. And give it a few moments, and voila, we have our GUI. So now we have a really basic setup of what we can do. We have our terminal, we have a web browser, we have a little bit of everything that a fresh install of what a Linux machine would have. And finally, you can now say, I use Arch by the way. I don't though. I do not like Arch whatsoever, but this is a IT YouTube channel, and I think I would be doing the community a disservice if I at least didn't do one video on Arch. Down below, let me know if you guys use Arch. Let me know what you like, don't like, and like always, thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you on the next one.